of Venezuelan gangs taking over, which now serves as the inspiration for his so-called Operation Aurora, something that deeply offends me because I used to live in the next door town of Montbello in Colorado. Let's talk about this, Attorney General Weiser. Thank you for being here. How do you stop him? If he decides to order the state of Colorado to round up every single undocumented person there and send them to an internment camp, what do you do?
Joy, I appreciate your familiarity with Colorado, and you know the story of Ralph Carr. Ralph Carr faced this very question. The president at the time said, we're going to intern Japanese Americans, and that was based on an unconstitutional plan. The Supreme Court has later made clear that it was unconstitutional. Now, at the time, FDR was able to get it through, but Ralph Carr stood up for our Constitution, for equal protection of the laws. And here in Colorado, I want to say what Aurora really stands for. We're the Ellis Island of the West. Aurora is a welcoming community. Over 100 languages are spoken in Aurora. People in Aurora are inclusive. And what you're talking about when you're disrupting families, when you're disrupting workplaces, when you're acting indiscriminately, is you are terrorizing people's lives. You're tearing families apart, and you're acting, in many cases, without regard to the law. Lots of people have a different status. There are different circumstances. When you try to act en masse, by definition, you're not bringing care to what you're doing. We will, and we have gone to court to stop illegal actions that harmed immigrants. During Trump's first term, we were successful on many fronts, including protecting the Dreamers, and we're prepared to do so again.
And the courts are an issue, Attorney General Weiser, because the courts are different than they were now. John Roberts, the Chief Justice of the United States Supreme Court, has made it very clear that he is a monarchist, that he wants Donald Trump to be able to act boldly, that he believes he has essentially unlimited power, that he cannot break the law, that if he does it, it is legal, to paraphrase Nixon. So how can you have confidence that if you take a case to the federal courts and it gets to the Supreme Court, that John Roberts will simply not order the state of Colorado to comply?
We are going to see a time where our institutions are tested. In the first administration of President Trump, John Roberts ruled 4 states who challenged the Trump administration on an effort to undermine the census, asking questions that were going to intimidate people with immigrant family members. We also protected the Dreamers, and John Roberts sided with state attorneys general who challenged the Trump administration. John Roberts, once again, may face cases where it's either the rule of law on one side or the Trump administration on the other. This is going to be a moment of truth for Chief Justice Roberts, for the Supreme Court, and for our judicial system.
Let me put up just from Pew Research, the states with the largest numbers of undocumented people. California, obviously the biggest, and then Texas, Florida, New York, New Jersey, and Illinois. And it stands out that Texas is right there at number 2. The governor of the great state of Colorado, Governor Polis, is not going to stand down for this. You said you will not either. But it now seems to me that if you are living in America as an immigrant, who your governor is depends on how much freedom you have. What party controls your state depends on whether you'll be protected. If you're in Maryland, you're probably maybe safe, at least for now. But New York is one bad governor's election away from saying that they will join in this. And they have 650,000 people in their borders. How can we live as a country with a rule of law if how many rights you have literally depends on which party controls your state?
Joy, I would put this a little differently in terms of federalism is a protection of our rights. I recognize at the federal level, we've seen a rollback of rights. Obviously, the Dobbs decision and access to abortion care is on everyone's mind. If you're in Texas and you're a woman who needs an abortion to save your life, you may not get it. That's terrifying. If you're a member of the LGBTQ plus community and you're living in certain states, you're going to be worried about discrimination and are you going to be protected? Here's the good news to the story that you just told. If you're here in Colorado, we're going to protect your freedoms, your right to access abortion care, your right to live and love whoever you want to. Colorado had those issues on the ballot this week. Overwhelmingly, we protect abortion care, and we stopped a bar on same-sex marriage that was in our Constitution. We in Colorado are inclusive. We want to let people live how they want to live, and that's something we'll keep defending.
Let me ask you if business leaders have addressed any concerns they might have that federal agents or even state police could be deputized to start kicking in their doors and demanding to see the papers of their workers. And I'm talking about agricultural businesses, construction businesses, restaurants, et cetera. Have you heard from any of those business leaders of whether they might be afraid that they might be subjected to this?
I've talked to business leaders who are very concerned about immigration policies that will undermine their access to a workforce, that will make it hard for them to grow Palisade peaches, to take one notable Colorado example. That is something I'm concerned about. As for our law enforcement basically being commandeered by the federal government, that's not going to happen. In the first Trump administration, we went to court on that very issue, and we won. Our law enforcement does not do illegal immigration enforcement. If the Trump administration seeks to enlist us in an effort that's illegal and that commandeers our resources, we'll see them in court.
Colorado Attorney General Phil Weiser, thank you very much. And I'm sure the people of your state thank you as well. And coming up, the massive implications